A familiar face is back at 9 News today, Quynh Nguyen, and she has written a book about her childhood called Fleeing to Freedom, a family's inspiring ocean escape from Vietnam to America. Quynh was just 5 years old when her family fled communist Vietnam on a tiny fishing boat, a daring escape to try to search for a better life. Quynh Nguyen is here with us now. Let's refresh some memories first for people who remember you from here in Colorado. You still live here, but you came here, you ended up going to CU and working here at 9 News.
I did. I worked here at 9 News for almost 9 years. I was here around 2000s, and I enjoyed my time here. I was a reporter and a producer here, and I worked closely with a lot of the people that are still here at 9 News.
I think many people remember you fondly for that. So let's talk about this book, because at times you've told this story. I was familiar with it, but this book is in the all-encompassing remembrance of your father, a South Vietnamese soldier, but his escape from communist Vietnam came years after the South had fallen. It was an arduous escape, even if it was to go smoothly, and it went anything but smoothly.
That's right. So much happened. But my dad, he was an officer in the South Vietnamese Army, and after the war ended, he had to do regular check-ins with the new communist government. And so they knew my mom was pregnant. And my dad thought it was the perfect time to flee because they would not suspect that he would flee with a pregnant wife. And so we had planned on leaving Vietnam and making it over to a refugee camp in Hong Kong, which was about 600 miles away and a 3-day journey. Well, it ended up, Tom, being almost 3 weeks before we reached Hong Kong.
You had to be rescued because the boat broke, and while you're out at sea, you said your mom was pregnant. She was more than pregnant. She was 9 months pregnant.
She was. So she was supposed to deliver the baby in Hong Kong on land, but then she went into labor early, and she delivered the baby in the middle of the night, in the middle of the ocean, while we were stranded at sea on this tiny fishing boat. And of course, there were no doctors on board, and my dad and my aunt had to deliver her.
I always think of this, though, you know, America's relationship with refugees and immigrants is almost 250 years old now. You have a very interesting perspective on that, growing up as you did in Vietnam, making that trip, and now seeing America, you know, years later. Tell us about what you've learned and felt over this journey.
I'm just extremely grateful. Grateful to my parents for everything they did and all the sacrifices they made. They really just wanted, Tom, a better life for their children. And I watched every single day when we came to the United States. They worked so hard to help us and to make our lives better. And I feel like they wanted to come here because it's the land of freedom, the land of opportunity. And they always felt that if you work hard here, anything is possible.
It's so interesting because I think so many Americans love America, but we often see stories of immigrants who come here and maybe have a heightened love for it because they came from a place that was anything but free or opportunistic or opportunity available, if you will.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful for this beautiful life that I have. And part of the reason why I wrote this book also is so that my kids can understand their roots, can understand everything that my parents did and what their grandparents gave up and all the sacrifices that they went through. And I want them to understand that and know that this life that they have today, it came from somewhere, and this is how we got here.
It's amazing because there are a couple of pictures of you and your family in the book on the boat, and it was because a BBC crew was filming something at the time?
Yes, we were lucky enough. So when we did finally arrive in Hong Kong at the refugee camp, there was a BBC news crew there doing a documentary on refugees and boat people, and they featured our family. So those still photographs are of my family. You can see my dad, my mom, my younger sister, and my mom holding the infant, my youngest sister, which, by the way, they named her Đại Dương, which means Grand Ocean.
Well, for very good reason. Well, the book is called Fleeing to Freedom, Quynh Nguyen. It's great to see you again. Quynh Nguyen, who now lives still here in Colorado. If you get an opportunity, it's certainly something that you'd want to check out and learn a lot about. One amazing journey, to say the least. It's great to have you back at 9 News.
Thanks, Tom. It was a lot of fun.
Good to see you, Quynh.